I'd like to welcome today's panelist, Professor Anthony Akila, Professor CAIPS Center Director, and Yemi Adamolekun, Director in Office in Off, and Charles Ohaukwu, who is a Arise News analyst. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. Although in journalism, we say gentlemen. Everybody in the media is a gentleman. Now, let's start with Nigeria, or Sudan, rather. Let's start with Sudan. You know, military leaders in Sudan have vowed to clean up the system in the country that have been led by ousted President Omar al-Bashir for decades. The Transitional Military Council is headed by General Abdel Fattah Burhan. His deputy is General Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo, head of Sudan's Rapid Support Forces. Burhan, who was himself sworn in on Friday, said the military will rule the country for up to 2 years until elections, and declared the immediate release of all those detained and tried during the current wave of unrest, which began late last year. Organizers of the protests in Sudan that forced long-ruling Omar al-Bashir from power are calling on the military to immediately and unconditionally hand over power to a transitional civilian government that will rule for 4 years. Well, we've had this drama from Sudan for months now. People protesting, the ordinary people saying we want Omar al-Bashir out of power. And now, you know, in the course of the week, we had Awad bin Awuf taken over from Omar al-Bashir. Omar al-Bashir was reportedly put in a safe place along with some persons. But the people themselves, the ordinary people, they said, no, this is unacceptable. We do not want a military takeover. Now, Awad bin Rauf is out of the place. Now we have Rahman taking over. But still, the will of the people has not been respected. So, what do you think would play in the next few days? Should Omar al-Bashir be handed over by this new team to the International Criminal Court? Ibn Awuf said he will not hand him over. Would this new person's hand over? Should the people of Sudan continue like the people of Algeria until they get justice, until they insist on the sovereignty of the people? I'll start with you, Professor.
Well, you start with me. There are three things, but straight to your question, what is going to happen? The logical thing that would not happen or shouldn't happen is them handing over their friends to enemies. Because in reality, this is a palace coup. You know, most of the crimes they're accusing the ousted president of were committed together with the people who are there now. So it would be strange for them to hand him over. That's the logical thing that should not happen. The other three things to be said are, you know, why are we here today? There was a mass protest, but there was no organized confrontation of power. And some of us saw this, you know, weeks ago. This is just a square thing. This is something out in the street. There is no group who are ready to take the reins of power. No,
but you had the Sudanese Professionals Association.
Yes.
You know, you had strong voices.
Yes.
Like Miss Alan Salah.
Alan Salah, yes.
The 22-year-old woman who is regarded as Kakanda,
yes.
the Nubian queen.
Yes.
So you had some kind of... and then you had the soldiers supporting the civilians against the intelligence and security agencies.
Yes, and disagree with me, you make my point better than me. Exactly. So you had professionals, you had icons, a 21-year-old who can tie... 22, or yeah, a bit older, who can tie turban very well, and you have some other people. And you don't take government that way. I mean, I say this, and I'll be very careful not to appear flippant. They've done a lot. You know, they've brought the attention of the world to what is going on there. But there was no organized group to take power. And the second thing is this. It's not just they want power to go to a civilian. They're against this coup because this is a palace coup, as I was saying. What they've done is that they've said, look, we need to save ourselves. It reminds me of somebody stepping aside once in Nigeria. You know, to say, this thing is going to go right for all of us. So therefore, you, the symbol head, just move aside and let's deal with them. And the people are saying they don't want that. There's a very, I think I like it, I'm not going to say beautiful objective, but the New York Times wrote a good piece in which they related what happened hour after hour in which the coup happened. So the coup happened, and everybody was very happy that he's gone. Then all of a sudden, they saw the face of a known threat or enemy. And the whole thing went sour, jaw-dropping. Then after he announced his plan and his conditions, it was sadness all over again. And that's a very important trajectory to it. So that's where we are.
Yemi, will you agree that enough is enough in Sudan? What would you like to see in Sudan moving forward?
It's not really a function of what I'd like to see, but I think, as Professor Akila said, it's parallel to the same thing with the sort of the Tunisia and the Arab Spring. So yes, uprisings, citizens, and I think that's the lesson from Tunisia to Zimbabwe.
To Algeria.
To Algeria, now Sudan. That power was a vacuum. So yes, citizens can be upset, yes, and I think the power of citizens coming out to protest and let their voices be heard and being consistent till they got what they wanted. But I think the end game, it's that, as the trajectory has shown, is we never quite think through that end game. I think Nigeria also has quite a bit to show from that. And I think the interesting thing, I mean, since Professor Akila has made that point, what I think is very interesting is that if you look on social media within the Nigerian context, Nigerians have gotten very excited around what happened in Algeria and Sudan. But one of the tweets that I liked the most was IOB, and saying that this not knowing our history is quite a shame because it's reflected in those tweets. And her point was that been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. Yes. So this sort of fantasy around a revolution that Nigeria needs is missed. It's missing the issues.
What should be the end game in Sudan? That's my question.
Well, the question is that this is the only thing that can happen, quite frankly, because the military are the only, I mean, short list of if the president had been impeached and then sort of a structured exit. But once you have a coup, this is what you get.
Do you have any fears about a post-Omar al-Bashir crisis, chaos?
I mean, first of all, they said
leaves and there's chaos.
Another strong man enters. But first of all, they said 2 years, which for me was a warning sign, because that shows no desire to quickly say, sense of urgency. And therein there lies the problem. So in terms of citizens, and I guess maybe this then is to your point, that citizens shouldn't go to sleep. So instead of the protest, is realizing that this is what you have, and then begin to articulate clearly with your Sudanese professional organization.
Asking for eternal vigilance.
Indeed.
Yes. The professionals, particularly the doctors,
and
the young people.
And the young people, not just
vigilance. The young people are the ones leading the revolution.
Yes, but not just vigilance and not just leading the revolution on the streets, but the clear plan that you're then engaging the military on, okay, fine, this is where we are, this is what we want as an outcome.
Charles, what's your take?
Well, I think they are not going to relent. They're already out there. They've been out there ever since December 19, when all of this is about the price of bread and everything started.
Bread and fuel. Yeah,
bread and fuel and all of that. This, I'm sure the pivots of this revolution, if that's how you want to describe it, I'm sure they know what they want. They want a clean break from, the oppression of the past 30 years or thereabouts that Omar al-Bashir represented. They don't want to have anything to do with that old guard. And remember, this what do they call it now? Baba's chair kind of changes that's happening within the ranks of military. I think it's just a desperate attempt by the military high command to try to massage the ego of the people, to try to calm the people down a little bit and hold on to, like Professor Akila said.
Even the fact that Omar al-Bashir is a member of the military establishment.
Exactly. Absolutely. So this is the establishment trying to protect itself. One of their own is down. Of course, the man has become a big liability. Yes. He has for a very long time, ever since he was indicted by the International Criminal Court. And, Sudan has suffered politically, economically. Remember the gripping sanctions, by the governments of the United States and the West and all of that. So he has become...
Even though the United States does not believe in the ICC.
Even though the United States doesn't believe in America plays different games for different countries, depending on the time and circumstances. So, I believe that those guys, the guys behind this revolution, are not going to step down. They're not going to bet an eyelid. Trust me, when you talk about vigilance, internal vigilance, I'm sure they're going to keep up to it.
But one thing they could do, though, and you know there are many things, but one thing they could do is actually if they can get an organized group that understands that now the battle is for power, they can get themselves organized and then liaise with other power blocks within and outside the country to put pressure on this military to say, this is where you are, as Yemi Adamolekun was saying, but let's give you 6 months to go. And then let's do maybe either a government of national unity or a national government made of different parts.
I think, Professor Akila, that's really the point.
Yes.
That military usurpation of power has become unfashionable.
Yes.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable, yes.
It's against international conventions.
It's no longer
It's a violation of the Constitution.
Oh, it's always been. It's just now it's more regional. Yes.
And the international community must mount pressure to see what has happened in Sudan.
Yes, starting from
that
little tiger called AU.
It's the will of the people,
Yes.
the sovereignty of the people that should prevail.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
And
And which...
I think it's very fortunate for them, too, that they have this arm of the military side of the military that showed some compassion, you know, to the whole thing. Remember that they helped push this thing through the line, across the line.
In Sudan defended the people.
Exactly.
And made sure that the intelligence and security services did not raise the casualty level.
Yes.
Even if the casualty level is at the level of 35 persons dead, so many others injured. But at the end of the day, the military now seizing the initiative and taking over government. You know, it's unacceptable.
I don't think
because that's a violation of the sovereignty of the people.
Something crucial there. The sort of thing that we're looking at. The military has taken government. No, a part of the military has taken government. I would not be surprised if the good, quote, the good military now gets encouraged to face sort of the bad one of the establishment.
Yeah, but in the long run, we should be more concerned about stability in Sudan. Not the country being divided into militias or factions and that's where the international community
needs to come
has a role to play. We'll take another subject now. Wikileaks co-founder Julian Assange was arrested at the Ecuadorian Embassy in London on Thursday. Assange took refuge in the embassy in 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden over a sexual assault case that has since been dropped. He now faces U.S. federal conspiracy charges related to one of the largest ever leaks of government secrets. The United Kingdom will decide whether to extradite Assange in response to allegations by the Department of Justice that he conspired with former U.S. intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to download classified databases. He faces up to 5 years in the United States prison if convicted on charges of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. Julian Assange. I mean, you guys must have seen the the reports, you know, being taken out and then being taken to the magistrate district court and all of that drama. Apparently, he overstayed his welcome with the Ecuadorian government, with Lenin Moreno, the president of Ecuador, saying, look, we have reached our limits with this guy.
He tweeted and within hours.
Yes, but where do we draw the line between investigative journalism and criminal conduct?
Well, it's a very big question, and it goes beyond what you say, because it's also a moral issue. Because in law, one thing I've always known, anytime I'm looking at legal cases, is always ask myself that whatever somebody does, and there is no direct benefit, we should be careful. Because it's not like he stole information and he sold it to make money. He's not a spy.
Okay.
So
mens
rea. So he's acting according to a vague conscience of this is the truth and let the truth be known. I think it's a battle of modernity. If they convict him, then all of us who enjoy those leaks What are we, receivers? We're all culpable, one way or the other, of, you know, the delighting.
Well, District Judge Michael Snow has already convicted him for jumping bail.
Yes.
Sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment.
So that's the moral side of it. Then there's another political side, which is real politics. What happened? They convinced Ecuador to throw him under the bus.
Definitely.
No, he himself overstayed his welcome by conduct.
A citizen, by conduct. So, okay. So if he had not overstayed his welcome by conduct, are you saying that he would still be there? No, that's not the point. The foreign secretary,
Jeremy Hunt.
Yeah, Jeremy Hunt let out the cat of the bag when he congratulated the Ecuadorian government for their good behavior. You know, he sort of said something like they've seen sense, or, you know, they've come to their senses. They've come to their senses. It's a terrible thing in human life, but there's a complex case because the guy has not stolen for himself. We must ask ourselves, and I know that's where you are coming from. You are wondering, because of your past, if it is true, if it's right.
My past.
For any years.
What have I got
It sounds very good, exactly. Because you're talking like a man of establishment. I know. You know, you're a man of establishment, and you're wondering if it is right for any reason for somebody to steal information, state secret, classified. Because you have touched a lot of classified secrets. And you know what you did. You know the importance of it. And I think you're personalizing. I'm personalizing it as well. You know, because I'm looking at it, but I'll let Yemi, who was clean and say.
Yemi, is Julian Assange villain or victim?
I think if he had, what for me I find interesting is this gamble, and I think I'll come from that perspective. This gamble that he took. I mean, did he really, he would grow old and die in the Ecuadorian Embassy? And they would he would just be there as a permanent resident.
At some point, I even forgot him.
Yeah. Well, so was that? I mean, so what was the end game in running from? I mean, the point is you broke the law.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of what we say around, did you sell it for money? The moral issue, what is right or wrong about it? Whatever the thing is, as society is currently constituted, you broke a law. Yeah. Now, when you break a law, there are consequences. Now, people who cover you for a reason...
Which law did they break? Computer intrusion?
Yes.
Or disclosure of information and defense of the people's right to know through Wikileaks?
Is it really the people's... Well, the people's rights to know, but there are... Okay, let's even push that a little bit. Under the people's rights to know, there are things that are accepted that, you know what, for national security are covered for certain period, classified for certain periods of time. And then they become public after 40 years when they can no longer bring down a country, quote unquote. So, yeah,
no,
but
it didn't bring down any country.
Century. So, but if we're pushing the argument of people's right to know, if we accept that for national security or global security, that citizens cannot know everything at every time, and there are processes to get information, now we've accepted that these are norms. Now, if we break that protocol, quote unquote, then where do we put that? So even if the information, for the sake of argument, even if the information hasn't brought down the country, but if we say that it is okay to breach those protocols, then we're opening the door for anybody to do.
Well, by chance, where do you draw the line?
Exactly.
Between a champion of the truth and government saying, you know, information is classified. Where do you draw the line? Because to some people, Julian Assange is a hero.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that line is actually very, very blurred. I mean, like you said, it's a big divide. There are people who will be saying, no, that this man is just being persecuted over nothing. And then, but I know that he was up against it. You know, the moment the Americans, you know, everything about the United States that he put out there. You know,
not the Nigerian one.
No. It was just that American angle that nailed him, and I knew that it was just a matter of time before, you know, of course, you know the nexus between UK and the United States. I knew it was just a matter of time before they sniff him out.
And they have to make him an example. They can't allow such things to be going on. But I think overall, maybe he will do his time, and history will be kind to him, because when the history of this thing will be written, one of the favors he has done the world is actually to expose what a lot of people have suspected. He has documented the hypocrisy and the double standard of the West towards developing countries.
Definitely, I think
You know, a lot of things that they knew and they lived with, and you know, it has just shown a lot of things.
But he's also been accused of rape by the Swedish.
Those charges have been dropped.
They dropped those charges, but we also know that there's a move now to reopen those charges.
They just want to get him, as Charles said.
Anyway,
But I mean, he should behave himself too. But overall, the charges have been dropped. That's the personal charges.
But if they're brought, I mean, and again, if they're brought back again and he's found guilty, then he should pay. I mean, he should pay the price.
The man should just relax and do his time and
write a book.
And write a book.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
no books have been written on him already.
No, he gets to write his own story.
He seems to be totally on fast
Yes,
about the entire process.
The person that he brought out of...
So this is...
the person they brought out didn't look convinced.
No,
He didn't look convinced.
Oh, that could be a weak effect. A lot can happen in a week of trouble.
True.
Anyway, let's come back to Nigeria. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, on Wednesday said there was no truth in the claim that he spent $30,000 to hire a lobby group to persuade the United States Congress to stop the inauguration of President Muhammadu Buhari. He accused the Buhari campaign organization of being behind the report, which he described as a total fabrication and a shameless lie. He said the All Progressive Congress administration had resorted to diversionary allegations since he resisted the pressure mounted on him not to contest the outcome of the last presidential election at the tribunal. Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress, APC, in its defense at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, had insinuated that Atiku is not a Nigerian, but that he is from Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon. In reaction, Atiku said he would not dignify the APC with a response, adding that his lawyers would do the needful in court. Gentlemen, is Atiku a Nigerian? And why are we being told now that he's not a Nigerian? This is a man who had been a deputy director of customs. He had been vice president of Nigeria. He had been a presidential candidate 2-3 times. Now we are told that this man is not a Nigerian. And this is, well, I don't know. That's for the tribunal.
No, I mean, if you're making a statement, then I mean, you don't even need the tribunal. Just show, I mean, that's simple enough.
No, the
referendum and plebiscite.
The other party, they are insisting that
he was born before.
He was born at a time when Jada in Adamawa State was not a part of Nigeria. And by the referendum, the 1961 referendum on Nigeria and
Southern Cameroon.
Southern and Northern Cameroon, that he became a Nigerian only by referendum, by plebiscite. And that whereas the United Nations requires a statutory report, a regular report of such plebiscites to the United Nations. Nigeria did not do that. And whereas the 1963 Constitution recognized citizenship by plebiscite, by referendum, subsequent Nigerian constitutions, 1979 and 1999, did not recognize that. And so, effectively, by law, all the persons from 4 local governments in Cross River State, from Adamawa State, and other persons in Northern Cameroon and parts of Southern Cameroon who joined Nigeria are technically not Nigerians. They are stateless, like the people of Rohingya. So why is this coming out now?
I think 2 things. Well, why is it coming out, to your question? It's coming out because there is a case in court, because lawyers are paying politics. I've always argued for a long time that there should be a kind of penalty for being silly. I don't know how to put it in law.
Lawyers cannot be silly. They are officers in the temple of justice.
And they can be silly, and they are being silly, especially Nigerians.
No, when they have evidence that they can advance, they will advance.
They will advance.
Because their job is the law, to advance the cause of the law.
Well, in some jurisdictions.
Is this the cause of the law?
Well, they are testing the law. The lawyers are testing the law.
Oh, the lawyers are testing the law, fair enough. Yeah. I would have advised all the people in the Cross River State, Adamawa State, and all those other people who were born before 1961 to get together and do a class action against the Nigerian state for not having perfected their documents and not recognizing them. We should test that kind of law as well. Exactly. Then maybe the voters should test the APC for having such a mentality. But we can't do this to ourselves.
No. Because, well, you know, it's very interesting. So if you're pushing that, so all the people in those areas, technically, are illegal. I know are illegal voters.
They're illegal
while
voters.
We're at it.
While we're at it.
Really so if we're pushing the law and testing, all of those people are illegal voters.
Very good. So the consequence. So if
people are saying, if you push this envelope further, you know, you are testing the sovereignty of Nigeria.
Exactly.
Because you are raising a question: who is a Nigerian citizen?
Yes.
So how desperate can the APC get?
You see, when I say
they want to pull down the country because they want to hold on.
This entire article, petition. I'm not even going there. What I'm saying is that the article petition thing, you know, that attempt, that sustained attempt was made, you know, to get people to, you know, get him off track, you know, concerning it. Shouldn't pursue it. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just. But I want to believe that it's an opportunity. It's beginning to present an opportunity, you know, for us to begin to right some of the wrongs.
Indeed.
That when I say wrongs, I mean as in decades-old wrongs that have plagued this country for a very long time. You know, because even the article, you know, it's very, very striking that it's even the article that brought out the issue of restructuring at first. You know, and most people politicized it.
Oh,
you know.
Not him, but first. Go ahead.
Okay, but you know, under this particular dispensation, just before the election.
Manifesto.
Exactly.
Yes,
you know, it's nature it's fate now trying to bring it all back.
Yes.
You know, through this petition that is lodged now, like you know, my fellow panelists said, you know, this is a time now to begin to test some of those, you know, those things, those indices. You know, to know who actually is a Nigerian, and whether it would eventually lead to the restructuring that everybody has been trying to run away from.
Well, but you know, of course, that this is not the first time that a major politician will be accused of not being a Nigerian. In 1980, you had the case of Sugar Daman, who was taken to court on the grounds that he was not a Nigerian, that he belonged to Chad, but the Supreme Court, of course, threw out the case.
On the level of desperation which this is being pursued.
On the part of the MPN. So we have history repeating itself. And it's amazing that a man who has been former vice president and who went through normal screening under Section 131 of the Nigerian Constitution, which deals with the eligibility of candidates for the presidential office. Now we have this slate of hands, and we are told that he's not in Nigeria. He belongs to Cameroon. But I don't know whether Vice President Atiku himself will be glad to go to Cameroon. Because, you know, the English-speaking parts of Cameroon, they are having problems
speak French.
with Pobia.
And he doesn't speak French.
But, I mean, that's on the side. But it's a very serious matter.
It is a serious matter. But I wonder, I mean, the lawyers are their agents to a client. I wonder what the ABC client thought when they saw what they were going to propose in court. Was there someone in the room who said, and it would be good to know these things, you know, if we had WikiLeaks. It would be good to know if somebody thought this is ridiculous. Don't go ahead with this. So everybody said, fine, go to court with it.
No, but it's the duty of lawyers to advance the best.
It's just there to advise.
So the lawyer is not going to be emotional or moralize. No, he will look for the hardest evidence that can help his case.
That can help his case.
So I think what is good is that this has been brought up. And it's for all Nigerians to address that issue.
Yes.
Because indeed, we are told that previously, you know, a parliamentarian had drawn attention to this matter. To say the people who joined Nigeria in 1961, if you do not deal with this matter and put it in the constitution, it will come up someday. Now, the day of reckoning has come.
And this is that day. Well, they should also look for all those people who should have perfected that act and accuse them of incompetence or omission of their duty, though, which would then include...
Well, in other words, you are condemning the 7th National Assembly
Yes.
Because it was under the 7th National Assembly that matter was brought up.
That was brought up. Well, you start from there, then you go back to 1961 and 63 as well. All the people that were involved.
And those who wrote the
and those who wrote the Constitution.
that we're currently using.
Look, I'm a big believer of actually going back to bring
what do you
people.
think? What's the way out of this logjam without dealing with the details of the matter before the election petition tribunal?
No, but I think, I mean, in the grand scheme of what the election petition is meant to ascertain is really who won the elections. Yes. But because as a country, this wasn't a fault of Mr. Atiku, I don't think it should be material. And I think to Mr. Akila's point, it's really something that should be set aside in terms of your case against him being a Nigerian or non-Nigerian until we as a country have dealt with it. Because it's not Mr. Atiku's fault that we are, as an individual, that we're in this situation. He's ran for office before, met all the criteria. It's never been raised. And as you said, brought up, dismissed, and I guess maybe people thought it's not that important. So to prove an electoral cheap point is what I would put it. I don't think it's appropriate for it to be considered in this particular matter. But the issue, to your point, in our general discussion around who is a Nigerian, what is this Nigerian state about, it definitely needs to be addressed.
Charles,
there could be another angle to it. I don't know how material this could be. There could be some people who would be pausing and thinking, well, is this a way to begin to stall this? Because when a defense team goes, their opening statement is someone is not a Nigerian, you begin to wonder, and you don't have any material evidence to support it. And you know, is this a way to stall, to begin to throw the spanner in the works, you know, just to get this in going eternally, and then, you know, hand over, what do you call it, swearing in comes, the May 29 comes and passes and everything.
So regardless of what they need to get done by...
Beyond the courtroom, I think this method of litigation is...
And I think that's the issue you're trying to make.
This method of litigation is an emetic method of litigation. It is not taking into consideration what happens outside the courtroom.
Exactly.
Because the optics are bad. You see, what they're saying is that the guy says he won. You say, even if he won, he shouldn't be president. Yeah. So that means you're thinking maybe he did win. Exactly. That's the problem there.
No, they are questioning his local standard.
Yes.
No, but his local standard would be
the other party is saying that you are not even in a position to question the outcome of the presidential election. Because you are not a Nigerian.
But you see,
and you should not have taken part in the election in the first place.
The point is
the APC does not care if I am Nigerian. You know why? Because I'm not contested for president.
Exactly.
That's what they're saying is that...
contest tomorrow.
But that's the thing.
They will begin to question your citizenship. They will say, oh, look at his face. He looks like somebody from Sudan.
No, we've done Chad. We've already done. The president is Sudanese. So he will be Niger. Or Togo. The other two countries.
What is more important is for the law to take its course for every officer in the court of justice
and then
to play their part.
Yeah, even though the sorry if I have to come in, our jurists, you know, the people who are going to ultimately decide this, they have to be very, very careful, because you know a lot of things will be thrown into all of this. It's going to be a heady mix. A lot of things will come before them, and there's going to be a lot of pressure. I don't know about the political pressure, but there's going to be a whole lot of pressure. And whatever it is, whatever decisions they take, you know, at this point in time, will definitely have a ripple effect. It's definitely going to have a lot of bearing, you know, on the stability of Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Judex, they understand their responsibility.
The weak things of the
and
town.
they know is that it's not just about the law. It's also about social stability. Yeah.